Hey out there, it's Jason Waters, and welcome to this episode of Cash Flow, where we talk about the number one goal of your small business, which is to create cash flow. Today with us, I have my good friend Shari Martin, who runs the Cobb Community Foundation. And so instead of just talking about how you can make more money, how you can save more money, we're going to talk about giving back to our community in this time of need that we have now and have had over the last several months and will have for the rest of our lives. So Shari, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Kind of start with, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am an Atlanta girl. We moved down here from Indiana when I was 4 months old. So I'm about as much of a native as you can be nowadays. I grew up in the area. My life out of college was financial services until about 5 years ago. And I started feeling like, okay, it's time to do something different. I didn't have any idea what that was going to be. So I took a year off, figure out what I was going to be when I grew up. And during that year, I had been on the board of Cobb Community Foundation. That was my year to be board chair. And Tommy Allagood, who was my predecessor, also the mayor of Acworth, also a home builder, also at the time, I think he was close to 70, decided it was time for him to slow down. And he told me he knew what I needed to be when I grew up, and that was his predecessor in this role. And it's been a wild ride and a wonderful ride, and I wouldn't change a thing.
That's awesome. Yeah, I remember when you made that transition. So tell us a little bit about what a community foundation is. Is Cobb the only one out there? Are there a lot of community foundations?
There are actually about 800 throughout the country. We're all independent of one another. There are 12 or 13 in the state of Georgia, and some of us have overlapping, for lack of a better term, territories. But what a community foundation is at its heart is we are a public charity. Significance of that is that when you give to a community foundation, even though we're named a foundation, you still get the full benefit, maximum benefit allowed by law of that charitable contribution. We focus on making a difference in a specific area. Ours is specifically Cobb County and the immediately surrounding areas. And all community foundations basically make their difference in three ways. We are grant makers. So, for example, right now we've created a COVID-19 fund to allow folks in the community to give, knowing that we are going through a vetting process to determine what organizations will receive grants from that fund. So we're a grant maker. We're a charitable fund manager. So a lot of individuals decide that, it's time for me to give back, and they don't really know where they want their dollars to go. So they can set up what's called a donor advised fund, and they put dollars in when it makes the most sense for them. And then we work with them on determining how best to utilize those dollars in the future. So we help manage charitable funds. And then the last thing is we're really a community catalyst, convener, and we try to bring people together to understand the issues and make a larger impact than any one individual or any one organization could.
Great.
So in a big nutshell, that's it.
Okay. So a lot of good things in the community, a lot of ways people can get involved. So tell me about the donor advised funds. I mean, I advise clients for a living, and oftentimes the conversations come up around, I want to start a foundation, or I'd like to do this to help this specific cause. And that's something that you could help with?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the first thing I would say is, coming from the wealth management world where I was, even wearing that totally independent hat, I always discourage my clients from setting up their own foundations. Okay. And the reason for that is it's time consuming, it's expensive, and there are ongoing expenses and administration costs that go along with that. So the alternative, and it used to be called a poor man's foundation, but the reality is there's a big shift away from foundations, no matter how large they are, to a donor advised fund. Right. And the way it works is when you contribute your dollars, think of it as you're setting up your own account at Cobb Community Foundation. and you contribute your dollars, that is when you actually receive your charitable deduction. And then the money stays. You have options for how you want it invested. And then over time, you decide who you want to benefit from your charitable dollars. I can tell you when I left my company and made this transition, I was very fortunate to have been offered the opportunity to purchase stock in the closely held company. When I left, I had to sell that stock. Very fortunately, there was a gain. And that was probably the biggest number I'd ever had on my tax return or ever will have. That was the year that I needed my deduction. So I took a portion of those proceeds and put it in a fund here at Cobb Community Foundation.
Okay.
And the beauty of that is I got my deduction when I needed it.
Right.
But I wasn't forced to give it all away. You know, frankly, it creates a lot of joy to give money to nonprofits. And the longer you can spread that out, the longer you're spreading the joy.
Right. That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
So if I'm a person or a business owner, how much money do I need to start like my own fund?
You can actually start a fund at Cobb Community Foundation with as little as $5,000. And let me mention, we also accept an ideal asset is a low basis stock. We can also accept real estate. But you can start with as little as $5,000 in kind or in cash. We do encourage folks to get their fund to $20,000 to $25,000 within a couple of years, because until you get to that point, we do have a minimum fee of $300, and we don't want that fee to be cost prohibitive.
Gotcha. Understood. Okay. So kind of switch gears a little bit, thinking about everything with COVID and how so much need has been in the community, from people from losing jobs to healthcare. So what have you guys had to do in terms of pivoting, if you will, to a COVID world or post-COVID world?
A lot. So I'll tell you the first thing that we did, and this, I think our first call was on March 23rd. We knew that there really was going to need to be a lot of coordination between a lot of different organizations, a lot of different nonprofits to meet the need that was coming about. I mean, I think 2 weeks ago, we at that point already had 150,000 people who had lost their jobs since the middle of March. And over half of those people are in positions that are very low paying jobs. So we kind of saw the writing on the wall, and we pulled together a group of leaders in the nonprofit community representing different areas of the nonprofit community: homelessness, food insecurity, financial needs. We also brought in Cobb Douglas Public Health, Cobb Senior Services, a number of different organizations, and started having daily calls to make sure that we had, and they had, we all had the benefit of each other's knowledge of what was going on in the community. And from that, the different folks who were on that call would share the information with others downstream, and then keep information going in both directions. And one of the things that came out of that was we're watching those organizations that provide food in Cobb County. One, their demand has tripled. And secondly, not everybody has access to food. And I'm specifically talking here about the nonprofits. Some of them have partnerships already with the Atlanta Community Food Bank. Some of them only receive donations from, in many cases, the churches, from their church members in the community. But what we saw happen is that the need became so great that no single organization was able to meet that need. Right. So they all came together. And what they started doing is now this group has twice a week calls, and they're reviewing who needs what. So this particular organization would have 75 college students come every week and pick up food boxes, and they're supplied right up. Okay, so Must is going to take care of them this week. Reflections of Trinity is going to take care of this week. And then this organization is going to take care of them the next week. And the way they were working together was just incredible. And what's happened since then is, you know, we all have seen the pictures of the food being tilled under and milk going down the drain. So, you know, the USDA created some programs to pay the farmers to make sure that that food got to nonprofit organizations. Mm-hmm. Well, Jason, it's been amazing to watch this, because what has happened is we knew that when this food was coming in, because it comes in by the truckload, no single nonprofit had the space to house the food that was coming in. And these big 18-wheelers aren't going to go to 30 different stops in Cobb County to deliver, you know, 20 boxes here. So we reached out to Brace, and they have allowed us to use their refrigerator space in the stadium. And they also have allowed us to have a 53-foot Ryder freezer trailer parked in their loading dock. That was arranged by one of our board members who worked, Kim Gresh, who worked through Huddle House to reach out to Ryder. And so that's now there. Kim and her partner, who jointly own Mobilized Fuels, are fueling that truck.
How to sell us, right?
Exactly. And so that's going on. We've got trucks coming in from Athena Farms, and watching the guys who work at the Braves Stadium go in with their little hand forklifts and move them out, take that stuff back to their big refrigerator. What needs to go in the freezer goes in the freezer. And then next, there's trucks coming in from different nonprofit groups who are picking up not only what they need, but then they're also taking it to the other smaller nonprofits that don't have refrigerator space. So, you know, when you talk about how have you pivoted during COVID, that's a big one. That's a big one.
Oh, thank you to the Community Foundation, and thank you to the Atlanta Braves, and thank you for Mobilized Fuels and everyone for chipping in. So
absolutely.
Let me ask you a question. How could folks find you or find Cobb Community Foundation?
Yes. So our website is cobbfoundation.org.
Okay.
And they'll find information there about if they want to set up their own fund, how they can go about doing that. If they want to give to the COVID-19 fund, we are obviously still accepting contributions to that. And you'll also see a list of everybody that we have funded with those dollars. Everything you need to understand what the needs are in Cobb County and to understand how to help meet those needs is on our website. And we'd love to talk to anybody.
That's great. Well, so you got the website, cobbfoundation.org, right? I got that. And then you can reach me if you need me on my website at financejw.com or on social media at #cashflow. But until next time, take care, be safe, and go help your community.